faces. So for those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Vanderkwaak. My lovely wife is sitting over there, and I've got 3 boys. And the Lord called us here to Salmon Arm about 2 years ago. And we believe that he called us here, and we have a purpose here with this church. And we are very excited to be committed here, to be a part of the leadership, to get to serve, and I get the privilege of speaking from time to time. So I am on a rotation every 5th week. I get to speak, and sometimes David and I are preaching through books together. Sometimes there's one-off sermons. The last time I was supposed to speak was Christmas, but I ended up being really sick, so John Shue filled in for me. So it's been more than 5 weeks, in case you were actually counting. But today, well, David has been doing a sermon kind of on Ezra and people. This is not a continuation of that. I'm going to let David continue his thing, and this is a one-off sermon of my own this morning. I asked David if he wanted me to do anything in particular, and he said, no, do whatever you want. So, welcome to church. No, it's really good to be here. I always actually get really quite excited to speak. A little nervous always, but quite excited. So, I believe there's a slide up. Yes, resolve. That is the sermon topic from this morning. I'm getting quite a bit of feedback in the monitor here. Is it possible to do a little something with that? Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you. So, just real fast, obviously we're not in full-time ministry yet. I work full-time. I'm a carpenter. And this week was a little extra wonderful. There's a job that we are working on, and it is a big siding job. Now, typically, I really prefer building things. I prefer the concrete, the framing, a little siding, some doors and windows, and then move me on to the next project. That's my favorite. We're on a big siding job, and it's kind of the never-ending, you just can see down the building, the endless just keeps going. And so that's always a little bit of a okay, mentally push through that. But overall, it's going all right. Well, come this Monday, so our company is the subcontractor of the subcontractor of the subcontractor. So we're kind of way down here on the totem pole. And being kind of the site supervisor, I kind of get to take care of things, but then my bosses are over me, and then there's people over them. And I guess someone up there up the food chain decided that something wasn't going the way that they wanted, and they decided that it must be because our guys were not being responsible and showing up to work on time, and they must be leaving early, and we must be taking really long coffee and lunch breaks. And we got accused of this. And so that was a real a blow, because honestly, the guys that I work with have been really responsible, and they are always, on time. We're always keeping an eye on things. And so to get falsely accused felt pretty bad. And then, of course, that accusation goes to the company, and my bosses, who are wonderful, they obviously have to do their due diligence and make sure that things are above board. So then, of course, they have to come and check on things and ask questions, and it does not feel good. It does not feel good to have to say, yeah, no, we are trying to, be responsible with our breaks. Yes, we are, sir. Yes, And so you have that, and so that was the very first thing Monday morning, and so then you're stewing on that for a while, and you're like, oh, man, who's that guy? And, as a human being, I want to both honor the Lord, and I have you want to get a little petty, and you're like, oh, if that guy comes on the property, I got some things to say, right? And that you're not allowed to do that, and it's not right, but you wrestle with the temptations of, there's all the gamut of temptations. You're, well, if they don't think things are going fast enough, well, we can make it go faster and let quality go down, or we can, whatever. And you can do none of those things, honestly, but all those little temptation thoughts, you wrestle through those throughout the day. And then, of course, my lovely wife happened to swing by and brought something. I think she brought me a little coffee, maybe a treat. She does that. She's wonderful. And so, like the spiritual person I am, the first thing I did was went and fussed to my wife about it all. And so that was kind of the start to the week. And then so in the evening, so now she's been thinking about what I've said, and of course throughout the rest of the day I'm kind of pondering this, and get home and then we chat for a little while about things. And we're like, well, this and that, and my wife happens to really care about me, so, she doesn't like that we're in a scenario that's less than ideal. And so there's some conversation about things, and I was feeling resistant to the idea of, let's say, quitting, whatever, pulling the pin. I wasn't going to do any of that. It wasn't that was really on the table anyway, but, you just talk about all the things. And so at the end of it all, I kind of had this, like, what I came to at the end of the day? Like, hon, I felt like after all said and done, I just felt this deep resolve that I'm not going to let someone's false accusations run me off. I'm not going to do that. I am not going to let someone else allow me to lose character and quit. I'm not going to. And I had this, like, hon, I have this resolve to stay no matter what they say. Like, I'm going to buckle down, and I'm not going to let quality suffer because I have a bad attitude, and I'm not going to take it out on anyone else around me because I'm frustrated about this. I actually, no, I can't do this. So in looking for some encouragement, I also, turned to the Word, and I read Nehemiah because it's just such an amazing book. And so kind of that stuff kind of formed a little bit of this sermon this morning. One little light side note. Our secretary, she's amazing, she's wonderful. I've been with this company for almost 2 years now, and we have to put our hours in this little app on the phone. And you can kind of do it real time, you can clock in, or you can kind of fill in hours after the fact. And most people just kind of fill in their hours after the day. The problem is that many times people forget, and so bless this lady. She's always like, please fill in your hours. Please, everyone record your hours, week after week after week. Please fill in your hours. I think one of these days she's just going to snap and be like, no one's getting a paycheck until, But it hasn't happened yet. But anyway, so now this little scenario happens, and we all are suddenly like, whoa, this guy's accusing us of not filling in our hours. Oh, y'all, we'll show you. Watch me clock in real time right now. And anyway, so I'm sure she's like, really? That's what it took? Y'all had to get accused of doing something wrong to be able to actually fill your hours in at the end of the day. Anyway, so bless her heart. Anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit. Well, first, resolve. The whole thing really was like, okay, this resolve. So resolve, internal strength. It's often described as the mental toughness required to stick to a difficult path. For example, her resolve to finish the marathon never wavered. Just a little thing. I'm just going to leave that up here. I want to talk a little bit about Nehemiah for just a minute. Nehemiah, he comes after the exile to Babylon. So David has been talking about Ezra and those exiles coming. Before Ezra, there were some exiles that actually were sent already before Ezra. They are the first ones who got to go back. They were instructed to start rebuilding the temple. They get delayed, they get resistance. The whole project stops for a bit. They get going again. Finally, the temple is completed. Now there's actually a home for all the articles and stuff that came from the temple. Ezra and his people get sent down with all the stuff. They're kind of the second round of exiles that leave, and they go down there. They've been there for maybe 13-ish years now, and some have come back and reported back to Babylon. And Nehemiah, he's a cupbearer to the king. He sees some of these exiles coming back and asks them, hey, how's everyone doing? What's happening there? How are they faring? And essentially the word is, yeah, they're not doing great. Yeah, they're in disgrace. The walls are broken down. They're not safe, and they're in disgrace with all their neighbors. Things aren't good over there with the exiles. He's like, oh man, they've been home now. These exiles have been home for over 50 years. It might be almost 70 years by this point. Okay, this is a decent amount of time. They should, in an amazing world, they should be decently established at this point. But after all this time, they're still struggling. The temple is built and it's filled with the articles, but the temple worship is struggling to get going. There's no walls around the city. They could honestly be attacked at any time, and all that stuff could be stolen again. They're not safe. There's not enough of them to put up a defense with an army. It's just not real. So they're not doing well. So here's Nehemiah. He now gets this. He's heartbroken. His first response, he weeps, he goes, he mourns, he prays, he fasts. Then he's feeling sad. he doesn't actually have any direction at this point per se. He just goes and does his job. He shows up at work, takes the cup to the king. The king's like, hey, you look sad today. And he's like, this could be very dangerous, but here goes. How could I be happy? My people are struggling. And the king's like, what do you want to do? He's like, well, man. So in this moment, now he has to make a decision. He's like, may I go rebuild the city? And the king's like, yes, how long are you going to be gone? And he apparently had to give the most amazing quick estimate of building time of any contractor out there. I don't know how he did it. I've done some, estimates for bathroom renos and various things, and I have to sit there and calculate the nuts and bolts and whatever. And I can't imagine thinking through, okay, I'm going to build a 4-mile long wall, and I'm going to be there with a chisel and a hammer. Tink, tink, make the stone square. I'm going to stack them up. How long is it going to take to do this job? King, I don't know if I'm ever coming back, But he apparently gives him a time, and apparently that's a satisfactory time in the king's mind. And the king says, absolutely, go do it. Furthermore, he's bold enough. He asks for letters of safe passage through all the different provinces. He asks for timber to be provided from the king's forest for both the gates of Jerusalem and to build his own house. And then he's also given a military escort. So he's allowed to do all this. He gets to go. So here's the kind of the quick nutshell of his life. He's amazing. I will do some scripture in a minute, but I'm just going to quick talk about some of the things he's done. So he gets to go. He assesses secretly all the stuff. He comes up with a building plan. He unites the exiles to build. All volunteers, right? Nobody's getting paid for this. 41 sections of wall are all getting worked on at the same time. He organizes everybody so that they are working on the wall that is opposite their own dwelling. Probably some intelligence there in terms of having a man wanting to protect his family. You know what? You build the wall in front of your house, they're going to work pretty hard on that section, hopefully. He faces tremendous opposition and insults. He faces threats of open attack. They sleep with their clothes on and a sword at hand. It's so dangerous. They end up finishing the wall. It's a miracle. They finish in 52 days. He restores the temple worship and organizes all the people, the singers, the priests, everything that was lacking. He gets all the stuff organized and going. He gets guards protecting all of the holy things. He pays for his own food and that of his servants out of his own pocket rather than demanding the governor's food allowance from the people. So he's incredibly generous. He stops the oppression of the poor by convicting the rich Jews to stop oppressing their neighbors and taking advantage of them and exacting interest and taking their fields and having them have to sell themselves into slavery to provide for themselves. He separates the people as holy from those who have intermarried, and he sets a new standard for holiness to honor the Lord in there, and he restores the Sabbath day of rest. And he has Ezra the scribe brought up, and he reads the law, and they all commit to serving the Lord, and they celebrate the Feast of Booths, and there's incredible joy in the city. So this guy does a lot. Okay, this guy, he did a lot. And he understood that physically protecting his people with a wall wasn't going to matter if the character of the people living wasn't right in God's eyes, and he really cared about that. Those two things had to go hand in hand. Protect the people, make sure that the people actually know how to honor the Lord so that the Lord would protect the people and that they would know how to live right there. See, resolve could be anything. You could be resolved to never talk to anybody again if you wanted to be. But resolve is something that every believer really needs to have. So part of biblical resolve, or actually, can I have the next slide up here for a moment, please? So, resolve, when used as a noun, resolve refers to a firm determination or fixity of purpose. Okay, a person without resolve avoids cost. A person with resolve accepts cost for the sake of something higher. Resolve versus resolution. If a resolution is a specific goal, like losing weight at New Year's, resolve is the actual willpower and the character needed to achieve it. Can I get the next slide, please? So, a few keys out of Nehemiah's life. I wanted to just do a couple of scriptures just to demonstrate what Nehemiah was up against over there. So I'll just read it. Actually, I can read it out of my Bible. So, Sanballat and Geshem sent to me, saying, "Come, let us meet together at Hakephirim in the plain of Ono." By the way, if your enemies are trying to lure you down to a plain called Ono, don't go. It's a clear sign. They intended to do me harm, and I sent messengers to them, saying, "I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you?" And they sent to me 4 times in this way, and I answered them in the same manner. In the same way, Sanballat, for the 5th time, sent his servant to me with an open letter in his hand, and it was written. Can you jump to the next slide, please? It is written, it is reported among the nations, and Geshem also says it. Apparently Geshem's important because Geshem said it. That you and the Jews intend to rebel. That is why you are building this wall, and according to these reports, you wish to become their king. And you also have set up prophets to proclaim concerning you in Jerusalem. There is a king in Judah, and now the king will hear of these reports. And so now come, let us take counsel together. Then I sent to him, saying, "No such things as you say have been done, for you inventing them out of your own mind. For they all wanted to frighten us, thinking their hands will drop from the work, and it will not be done. But now, O God, strengthen my hands." So these guys have an open letter that they want to send to the king, saying that they're going to rebel, and it's a threat, it's a false accusation. He faces insults. I did not end up throwing this one on there. I'm just going to read this one real quick as well. Tobiah and Sanballat are kind of his primary antagonists, as it were. And so when Sanballat heard that they were building the wall, he was angry and greatly enraged. And he jeered at the Jews, and he said in the presence of his brothers in the army of Samaria, "What are these feeble Jews doing? Will they restore it for themselves? Will they finish up in a day?" And Tobiah the Ammonite beside him said, "Yes, what they're building, if a fox goes up on the wall, he will break down their wall. Hear, O God, for we are despised. Turn back their taunt on their own heads and give them up to be plundered in a land where they are captives." So Nehemiah, he is facing overt threat. There's another spot where they basically are like, you know what, we're going to try and attack them and come upon them suddenly and attack their workers. And so they end up having to have half the people stand guard, half the people are working with swords strapped on. Nehemiah is like, "I got a trumpeter with me. If anyone hears the blast, come to wherever we are and help us out fight." So he's doing a great work, and he's facing insults, he's facing false accusations, he's facing overt attack. Nehemiah had resolve. So I just want to say a few keys out of Nehemiah's life. 3 things. He let his values guide him in the face of unclear decisions. So one thing I really respect about Nehemiah is that there's many people in the Bible who actually have like an angel come and be like, "Hey, the Lord wants you to do such and such," or they have a vision, or maybe a prophet comes and gives them a clear word. We don't see any of that in his passage. He gets a word saying that the exiles are struggling, and he just really cares about them to start. He cares about his people, and he cares about God a lot. He cares about what God thinks, and he knows that his people being in disgrace, that's tough for his people, and it reflects poorly on his God. And he really cares about that. So he lets his heart actually stir him and lead him in this. And I'm sure the Lord put some of this stuff on his heart, but there isn't an overt word of the Lord, right? He is bold enough to seek the king at the risk of his life, and then he goes down there on principle, and he organizes everybody on principle, doing what he knows is right. He goes and he faces all this opposition. He faces resistance from his own people. There's a passage here where it says that, some of the Jews, because the Jews were living in their own towns and basically farming and taking care of themselves. And now he's got this whole volunteer base building the walls. And it says 10 times the people came and said, "Hey, you must return to us." People are like, "Hey, we got to get farming, man. Like, stop this work. They got to, whatever, we got to till the fields. And he's like, no, we got to work. Okay, he faces resistance from his own people. He faces resistance from out there. And he's not operating on the word of the Lord per se. Now, he does know the Bible. Okay, he does know what the Lord's promises were. He knew about those things, okay? He knew what was right, and he was willing to stand up for it in spite of everything. He had incredible depth of character to face all of this. There's a moment where they try to lure him away into the chambers of the temple and lock the doors to keep him safe from attack. And in that moment, he doesn't actually know what to do. He doesn't know that the person luring him is paid off at that point and up to no good. But he let his values be his guide and go, I know what is right. And I know that someone in my position as a leader can't go run and hide, because the message that's going to send to all the people, they're all going to run for the hills as well. We're all going to look like cowards. I know on principle that I need to stand up and risk getting attacked. I can't go out and hide. And after he decides the right decision based on what he believes and what he values, after that he discerns that person was paid off and that he had made the right choice. So key one, he lets his values guide him in the face of unclear decision. Two, he didn't retaliate. Okay, he stayed focused on his purpose the whole time. You don't see a passage in here where he was like, oh, wait, they're going to tell us a fox is going to break down their wall. Well, go tell Tobiah that his face looks like he got stepped on by an ox. Like, he doesn't do that. He doesn't send his servants to go burn their crops. He doesn't, like, he just is like, no, sorry, I'm super busy over here. Ain't got time for you. Lord, you deal with them. Okay, guys, keep working. We got to work really hard here. Like, he's, like, fixed on his purpose. He's not trying to avenge himself. He's not trying to stand up for himself. He's not getting distracted. He's very focused on his purpose, and he's trusting the Lord to handle the things that are out of his control. He's not trying to take matters into his own hands. That's number two. Okay. Number three, he didn't try and stuff his emotions either. He wasn't like pretending to be a brick the whole time. His response, he's like, hear, O God, for we're despised. Turn back their taunt on their own heads and give them up to be plundered in a land where they're captives. On the one hand, he's like, wishing ill on his, he's venting his frustration and his pain at being insulted and disgraced for doing this, okay? He's not pretending. He's feeling what he's feeling. He's not just acting, right? He's not just acting tough, and he's not just being stoic. He is speaking to the Lord and letting the Lord know how it's feeling, how he's doing, and he's crying out to the Lord, and he's not taking it out on the people around him, okay? He's not just trying to stuff his emotions. He's trusting the Lord, okay? He brings them to the Lord, and he stays true to his purpose. The Lord absolutely loves his resolve. And you see at the end of the day, he succeeds in everything he does, despite the opposition. I believe that is something that the Lord does. And something about resolve is that resistance is going to come, and resolve is the thing that you need to get past resistance and to keep moving forward. Resistance actually strengthens your resolve. And also, resistance is a test. For every believer, the Bible does say that we're going to face opposition. I have no idea who said it first. I've heard it from multiple different pastor sources, but there's, the thing. If you're walking through life and you don't bump into the devil now and then, maybe you're walking the same direction, okay? There's that, you're going to run into the enemy, and he's going to test your resolve, and the Lord is also going to allow it to happen, to test what you're made of. I'm actually super curious. In the story of Jesus, Joseph, Mary, obviously Mary gets this angelic visit. She gets this, hey, you are favored. He's going to come upon you. You're going to be the mother of the Most High God, and she's like, whoa, this is crazy, right? Joseph, they're betrothed. The Lord could have sent the angel to him ahead of time as well and given him a little heads up, and he doesn't do it. I am just curious. I'm not going to pretend that I actually know, but I do wonder. I'm like, Joseph is there, and I wonder if the Lord's like, I wonder if Joseph is actually going to be a good dad. Let's just check to see what he's made of for a moment. Let's let him find out that Mary's pregnant and they're betrothed, and let's see how he responds to that. And there's Joseph, and you know what? The simple commentary is that essentially Joseph finds out, and he resolves to divorce her quietly and not put her to public shame. So that was essentially the biggest betrayal she could have done if it was real. Obviously, we know that this is true and it's from the Lord, but as far as it goes, there's no precedent on the face of the earth before or after of this happening. So he doesn't have a lot to work off of, oh, it's been done before. Like this is a new situation. And Joseph has to make the only logical conclusion that you could naturally make in this situation. She slept with somebody, something happened, and she was betrothed to be married to me, and she cheated. His feelings of betrayal, he could have publicly shamed her. He could have done a lot of things. She could have been just like the scum of the earth. And he decided to calmly and quietly divorce her. I'm sure he was in a lot of pain, and he decided to honor her instead. And I bet you the Lord was like, now I know that guy's going to be a good dad for my son. Go send an angel to him. He needs to know the truth so that he can have the same confidence Mary has. And he gets to find out after while he's considering these things. But I'm like, man, a little resistance, you get to find out what's inside, you know. Obviously, what happened on Monday was a pretty small potatoes compared to so many of these things that these guys went through, and yet you still get to ponder. You still get to go, well, am I going to be a little bit cranky today, or am I going to be am I going to snap at people? Am I going to, and you got to no, I can't do that. It's not their fault. I can't, what's going to come out when you get squeezed? And so I really believe that the Lord has for us just an incredible path and journey, and it's going to take resolve to walk it out. Sorry, I'm looking at my watch. My wife is part of the kids ministry team, and I have to learn that if I'm not on track, they're going to come out with pitchforks and torches and rebel, and so I got to be careful here. So I need to get my head back on track real quick here. So the last thing I wanted to say is that resolve is not just you having internal character. Biblical resolve is more than just being resolved. It's more than just being fixed on a purpose. Biblical resolve comes from trust, comes from trusting your Lord and Savior. When he says, so in Colossians, it's 3:23, verse 24. Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ, for the wrongdoer will be paid back for the wrong he has done, and there is no partiality. Nobody's getting away with anything. You don't need to fight for yourself, and your reward comes from the Lord. And so biblical resolve, godly resolve, Christian resolve comes from trusting that what the Lord says is true, and then standing and acting on that. Okay? You can be a hard ethical worker, but if you get wronged and you don't know that there is a God that fights for you, and that person, whether you see it, whether it happens soon or later, the Lord sees it, and you don't have to fight for yourself. And you can continue to operate in peace and enjoy knowing that they're not getting away with it, whether you get to see the outcome or not. There's a psalm, David's bothered by people who do evil, and he's, whatever, and he finally goes into the sanctuary, and he spends time with the Lord, and he's like, I went into the sanctuary, and then I discerned their end. So he's bothered by all these evil people, and he's really struggling, and he goes, and the Lord gives him discernment in his presence. He spends time with the Lord, and the Lord gives them clarity. He's like, they don't get away with it. Their end is not good. It might look like it right now that they're getting away with it, but their end is not good. You can be at peace knowing that I've got this. So for myself, I just have this like, man, I need to make sure that I keep working hard. I keep doing my job well in spite of this. And other things in life, I need to make sure that I'm loving my family well. There's many things to be resolved about. We're resolved that for better or for worse, we are here to help serve in this congregation. And until the door is closed or the Lord gives a really clear different word, we are here. We're here to serve. So I wanted to just take a moment. I wanted to see if there's any, I want to take a moment of quiet. I want David to come and just strum the guitar. And rather than just like singing a song, I'm just going to take a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I just want everyone just to have a moment of quiet and just reflect and just be like, Lord, is there something that you want me to look in the eye and fight for right now? Is there something that you're calling me to? And it doesn't have to be big. It could be that, you know what, he's like, you know what, you really need to stop complaining about doing chores around the house. That doesn't honor me. You really need to put the effort into fighting for that relationship that you want to quit on. I'm challenging you to go after that thing. There might be something. It doesn't have to be some wild spiritual thing, but I just want to see. There's a passage, one of the things Nehemiah says, he's just like, the Lord put into my heart to enroll people in genealogy. He just is like, yeah, the Lord just dropped this thing in here. It wasn't some big, amazing word. I just want to see just a couple minutes, and this isn't about you share, just take a minute just to connect with the Lord. Just go, Lord, is there something? Keep it to yourself. It's your own resolve. It doesn't need to be this big, loud thing. I just want you to have a moment to connect with the Lord and go, is there something, Lord, that you want me to stand up and fight for in my life? And then I'll just pray to close, and then I would love if the ministry people would be able to come up. The very last thing I want to say, there's a moment where Nehemiah has all his people organized, they're working on the wall, they're under the face of threat, and the people are discouraged. And the Bible uses this word, he says that half the people held spears while the other half worked. That word, held spears, is this word, I'm going to butcher it, it's like hazek, but it's said in very Hebrew. And it's used for holding spears, but other places, there's 10 times in the Bible that it ends up actually being used as the word encouragement. God is talking to Moses, and he's like, strengthen and encourage Joshua, because he's going to be the one to take the land. And it's that same word, hazek. When you're working hard, it is very encouraging to have people standing lookout for you and standing with you, so that when you are working hard, you're having a hard time, you know that you're not alone. And you know that if someone's coming around the corner with a sword while your back's turned chiseling on a rock, that someone is there to help protect you. And as the body of believers, we are here to stand with each other. So there's some ministry. If you want prayer, if you're like, there's something on my heart and you just like, you want someone, you need some encouragement, we'd love to have some people up here to pray with you. There's amazing people in the congregation. Honestly, you could pick probably most people in here and they would love to hear you and pray with you. But we're here to encourage each other. We're here to look out for each other. We're here to hold spears for each other. So we'll take a minute. I'm going to put the timer on. It's 11:25. We'll just take 2 minutes of silence, and then I'm just going to pray and dismiss. You can get goodies, and then if there's something you want prayer for, we'll have some people available for that. Father in heaven, I just pray that your blessing would be on the people here, that if there are those who are facing resistance or insult or struggling with something in their life, and there's just really some hard trials in front of some people, Lord, I pray that you would strengthen them. I pray that your hand would be with them and you would give them the discernment, the wisdom, and the grace to know what to do, to know how to handle themselves, and how to trust you in the situation, and to keep moving forward. I pray that they would be filled with your presence, with your joy this morning. We love you, God. We are here for you. You are what make it worth it. We're so excited. We're so excited to get to spend